All right, we will now reconvene at 9:24 a.m. Please silence your electronic devices to avoid disturbing others. Mirroring and modeling how our students begin each day, I ask that you please pause with us for a moment of silence. Please join me. I will now read our board commitment statement. We are the Marion County School District Leadership Team. When we come together to work, we are efficient, effective, and productive. Our three most important characteristics are dedicated, transparent, and individually responsible. To work well together, we must demonstrate respect, confront reality, and be accountable. We will always put students first, and we will leave a legacy of success. I would ask that our school board attorney please explain the rules for this public workshop. Good morning, Attorney Powers.
Good morning. Thank you. This work session is a public meeting as defined in Florida's Sunshine Law. The board is dedicated to full transparency in its meetings and its work. In compliance with the Sunshine Law, the board has adopted uniform meeting procedures, including the right for citizens to participate. The board will allow public comment regarding any work session item listed on today's agenda at the appropriate time. Speakers must fill out a request form located in the lobby and hand it to the board clerk. After the board and superintendent have completed their discussion on a particular agenda item, the board clerk will call the speaker's name in the order received. Each speaker will have 3 minutes. As required by the Sunshine Law, the board must maintain orderly conduct and proper decorum throughout this meeting. Speakers may criticize subject matter and decisions in a respectful manner, but not people. Finally, speakers must be very careful not to violate the privacy rights of others, especially students and their family members, by mentioning their names or other identifying information. Thank you for your attention to these important rules.
Thank you, Attorney Powers, and good morning. Ms. Martinez-Young, can you please provide proof of publication for today's meeting?
The notice for the May 21st, 2026 administrative briefing and work session was published on the district website on May 14th, 2026. Proof of publication has been attached to board docs under proof of publication.
Thank you, and good morning, Ms. Martinez-Young. We will start with our superintendent's administrative briefing. Dr. Brewer, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good morning. All right, Marion County Public Schools has successfully completed spring state testing for 95% of our students, with overall scores showing an increase in the number of students performing at or above grade level. State testing will continue through the remainder of this week, with makeup testing scheduled for next week. Parents can access all student scores through the Florida Department of Education Family Portal through Family Access, Skyward Family Access. As you know, we've had an exciting couple weeks with award ceremonies and baccalaureates and graduation starting on Friday. This Friday we will all attend Hillcrest School graduation, and then Lakeward High School Friday night with Bellevue High School Saturday morning. So we're excited for all of these wonderful end of the year celebrations. I do want to provide the board and the public some information concerning some summer work sessions. As many don't realize, this summertime is when the schools shut down, but we stay really busy providing updates and information sessions to the board. So our first work session in June, the annual benefits update will be provided, as well as the sales tax project and the central office staffing plan. In the end of June, we will provide you with the PM3, that's our Progress Monitoring 3 update. Mr. Whitehouse will provide all of the final numbers to the board. And we will also have a 26-27 Public Education Foundation overview. So Megan Magamal will share all of the program updates and the statistics that go with all of her programs, all of the team's programs. And then in July, we will have the comprehensive operations update that the board has requested, as well as budget presentations and the 5-year capital plan. And last but not least, at the end of July, we will have the summer school wrap-up. The board, if you recall, you have requested, we always provide you an update, but you've requested data attached to attendance, as well as credits recovered for both middle and high school students. And we will provide you with the facilities rental agreement, and that will be the July 23rd work session. Those are all my comments this morning.
All right, thank you. Well, we will kick it off with item 4.1, which is our quarterly compliance inspection report. I believe Ms. Cynthia Barnes is here from our Safe Schools Department. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair Dr. James, members of the board, and Superintendent Dr. Brewer. In accordance with Florida Statute 1001.212, the Florida Department of Education's Office of Safe Schools monitors compliance with school safety requirements across all public school districts, including charter schools. The office conducts unannounced triannual inspections of all public schools while they are in session and investigates any reported instances of noncompliance. Each quarter, a report is provided to the district school safety specialist identifying the number and percentages of schools, including charter schools, that were inspected or re-inspected during that period, and the number and percentage of those schools found to have no safety requirement deficiencies. I'm required to present this report to the district school board during a public meeting. To help maintain the safety and security of our districts, this report does not include detailed site-specific information. For the third quarter of the 2025-2026 school year, unannounced compliance inspections conducted by the Florida Department of Education Office of Safe Schools at Marion County Public School and charter schools yield the following. Number of schools inspected or re-inspected, 9. Percentage of schools inspected or re-inspected, 15.79%. Number of schools with no safety deficiencies, 9. Percentage of inspected schools with no deficiencies, 100%. In closing, I would like to commend our school leaders, teachers, students, and support staff for their continued commitment to maintaining safe and secure learning environments each day. I'm extremely proud of the collective efforts, support, and leadership that made this possible. I also want to assure our community that the school board and superintendent remain fully committed to prioritizing school safety. Thank you for your time and this opportunity.
Thank you, Ms. Barnes, for your commitment to ensuring our schools are safe each and every day. Board, is there any comments or remarks regarding this item? No, was that a no, Ms. Thor?
That's correct.
Okay, all right, is there any public comment on this item? All right, hearing none, thank you, Ms. Barnes, for your presentation and your commitment to safety.
Thank you for the opportunity.
All right, we're gonna move on to item 5.1, which is our gifted programs part 3 update. I believe Mr. Whitehouse and Ms. Connor are here.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, Board. Good morning, Superintendent. We are here to provide an update on our gifted program presentation. So as the Board recalls, we did several presentations in the fall about the comprehensive K-12 gifted program. At our last presentation in November, we shared the plan to add the possibility of adding a middle school gifted pullout elective for the 26-27 school year, and the board asked that we come back at the end of the year to share updates on that program. And so we are here to share how this was rolled out and also our numbers as they will be for next school year. So the first thing was in January, working with our principals and assistant principals at our January meeting to discuss what the possibility of a gifted pullout elective would look like. And so we talked through the state standards that go along with that course, how it could be scheduled, what it could look like. And Ms. Connor worked with the principals and assistant principals on the language for messaging to make sure that we targeted our gifted parents. So we did add the advanced academics course option as an elective to all of the middle school course requests, and then had the middle schools send out that targeted messaging so parents would know who had gifted students in or coming into middle school would know what the elective possibility would look like. And then based on the level of student interest, we have 3 schools that are going to be piloting that advanced academics course for the 26-27 school year, and those are Bellevue Middle School, Fort King Middle School, and North Branch Middle School. So we have a good cross-section of schools across the district that will be piloting this program for us. We are going to work with each of those schools to build that course, what it can look like, making sure that we're sharing resources between those programs so that we have a solid foundation, and then can share that feedback with the other principals about how that program is progressing next school year. Other things in progress that we will continue working on, making sure that we are adding extension activities on our curriculum resources to support gifted instruction, K-12, and also increasing our professional learning options, which is a part of our strategic plan for the next 5 years, which would include getting more teachers gifted and endorsed into the future that can provide greater services for our students. So that's the quick wrap up, and Ms. Carter and I are happy to answer any questions you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Whitehouse. Quickly, just a question I have. How many sections are we offering at each school?
So there are 80 students total between them, so I think that works out to about 4 sections, basically one at each, except Bellevue Middle School is the largest gifted population outside of Osceola. We probably have 2.
I'm sorry, I couldn't hear a single thing you said, which means Board Member Conrad definitely can't hear what you just said.
So we had 80 students in total that are going to be taking the gifted elective between those 3 schools, so it's about 4 sections worth of courses. Bellevue Middle School, I assume, is going to have 2 because they're our largest gifted population outside of Osceola.
Okay, I heard you say Osceola, and I was confused because that wasn't a part of the projection.
Right.
Okay, so it's the way it's being delivered is a teacher who teaches would have taught 6 sections of something last year is now teaching 5 sections of that something in 1 section of advanced academics.
Correct.
Okay, thank you. Those were my only questions. I open it up to the board for further comment. Board Member Thur?
I'll just say quickly that this is great. It completely lines up with what has been our goal, which is to help every student find a path that keeps them engaged in school. I'm working hard on really being able to remember every single time, supporting every student's pathway to success, our new vision statement. And I'm so glad that Fort King's being included.
Thank you. Did you want to go, Dr. Campbell?
I too am grateful that we're headed in this direction to pilot this. I still continue to believe the greater focus that we put on this specific population of students at every grade level, having extra added support for them will only enhance our marketability. I'll say that. I've been speaking recently with a homeschool parent who has a child that is a very young student, about to be a first grader, I believe, and is needing stronger support in this area. And short of having them apply in a lottery program, we don't have services for them. And so it's causing struggle at those early grades. So I love that thank you, middle school that's been a huge focus that we've said we have had a gap for decades. And we're not alone. Multiple districts around the state have gaps for sure. We heard today freshmen have a gap. Several freshmen we heard about today. There are gaps throughout this district for this specific population who will continue to struggle with discipline-related issues if they're not positioned in the right way. So I encourage us to continue to explore, and perhaps other board members feel the same, to continue to explore those specialized locations where we're not just putting even our elementary school kids in a lottery, because if you don't get in to the 2 magnet schools that really do service a lot of our gifted kids, you're going to be in a gap. And so I know that we are doing good work around the district, but I know that we can continue to enhance it. Thank you for hearing what we asked for specifically, but I'm looking forward to the day that the legislature starts actually identifying the need to fund this differently. So.
Thank you, Dr. Campbell. Dr. Brewer had remarks.
I wanted to add that we have also prioritized sharing information about how teachers can add on to their certifications for the gifted endorsement. And so we have shared that through our curriculum newsletters and our HR newsletters, because that, of course, will only help us in this next step.
Absolutely. So if we're able to actually get almost like a recruitment team of current gifted teachers, because you know how those cohorts work, like when people, the group of 4 that all went and got their doctorates at USF together, like, you'll do it together with another peer who's going through a cohort with you. It makes it easier to lean on each other whenever, so I appreciate the campaign to push it out. But if we don't have real, like, testimonials and people recruiting within their own schools to say, hey, come on, you can do this, I dare say it's potentially not going to be quite as successful as it can be. But because right now, we know there isn't any additional dollars associated for those teachers to receive those gifted endorsements. It's just an enhancement to their professional learning and how they're able to enhance their coursework that they're doing in the classroom. So to be able to meet the needs of their students, for sure. But it's not a requirement, and there's no dollars assigned to it. So it really takes someone who's dedicated to the interest of students that meet this specific criteria. So I, again, appreciate you hearing us, appreciate what has been done thus far. I'm excited to hear what the progress looks like whenever we see those students in this middle school setting. Maybe the pilot expands to all of our middle schools in the future. But obviously, pilots are there for a reason. Most of our pilot program, not all, most of our pilot programs do end up being so successful that it does roll into everyone gets the opportunity. So I just encourage us to continue to have a very keen lens on this unique, specific population. Again, specifically to make ourselves really marketable now that marketing is an actual thing that has to happen in the marketplace, and it's called that. So that's not something that we in public education ever really had to talk about but now that the legislature and DOE has put in place a marketplace, we have marketing goals and families that need the services that aren't being offered elsewhere in our community. So we need to look to how we can continue to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kimball. Reverend Cummings, did you have anything you wanted to add? Okay, Board Member Conrad?
Just real brief. Good morning, Mr. Whitehouse. I want to thank you for your continued commitment. This has been a long stretch of conversation, trying to get this across the finish line. And I just have 2 things. I look forward to when we have the opportunity to have this in every middle school. I think our students deserve it. And I also am excited on the in-progress piece, the adding extension activities. As we work to get more teachers certified, it's a heavy lift for our instructional staff to come up with and create meaningful activities for their gifted learners. And so our gifted teachers that are already certified coming in and assisting with this planning piece?
Yes, so we certainly tap into them as much as we can. During the school year is challenging, but summer is usually when we get a lot of that work done.
Okay, I think that's a really great tool. As I'm working on a unit as an instructional unit, something's already there prepared that I can give to my my highest achievers. So thank you. I really am excited about that piece.
James? If I may. Sure. Thank you. The other thing, potentially even at the elementary school level, we witnessed it last night with the We the People, and we do just have 5 of our elementary schools that are participating in that right now. Expanding that program into even more elementary schools will also help at least those 4th and 5th grade learners in a different and unique way in an advanced type program. So I'm just looking forward to the opportunities that we can expand these resources to every school, every student, so they don't have to go to a specialized program and be a part of a lottery. Again, the way that my children got into one of those magnet schools is different than it is today. And again, from a marketplace standpoint, if those families that are with those kids, with those already in hand papers that say genius IQ right here, but I didn't get in, what do they do? And so I'm struggling with that for this one specific family, because I don't know what, I just told her, I said, I'm going to come up with something, I don't know what it's going to be. So anyway, those are my thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you. So a couple things I'd love for you to be able to confirm for me, Mr. Whitehouse. When a student is homeschooled, and they're using family empowerment, potentially, money, they are able to come onto our campuses for gifted instruction still, right?
So that's something that Ms. Connor is working on right now with finalizing what our elective selection will be for next year. So we are active on the marketplace as a county, but we don't have any of our in-person instruction available yet. We're trying to get our finalized pricing list out there for the marketplace for next school year. But that is one of the areas that we're looking at, because it's not school availability, it's course availability. And so if there's seats available in that course, students could come for that course.
That we would then receive funding for.
Correct.
And that's from a secondary perspective.
Secondary and elementary could be included as well.
Well, elementary, as it exists right now, if they're homeschooled, they can still come onto our campus to receive gifted instruction.
Correct.
But we'll be able to receive a monetary value for that, which we wouldn't have previously.
If they're taking the Family Empowerment Scholarship, yes, we would be able to charge them through the marketplace.
Understood, because we wouldn't be able to claim the FTE for the 1/5 of instruction, right?
Correct.
And we offer gifted instruction on or through all of our elementary campuses.
Correct, yeah. So some of them, as you know, are combined just based on the numbers of gifted students that we have, that we do have to combine a few of our close proximity elementary schools together, but every school has access to a pull-out gifted program at the elementary level.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was clear, because yes, our magnet schools, I think, are hubs to students who are having academic excellence. However, our magnet schools also have students who have severe dyslexia or other exceptionalities and unique abilities. So we're offering gifted delivery to students at all schools, and some of them are bused. And I don't love that we bus. I would love to be a thought partner on figuring out how we can deliver more effectively on site, because there are lots of minutes missed when we're transporting students. And I also think there's a potentiality to use the vans as a way to transport instead of waiting on the yellow buses. Because some of the students we're transporting, it's 10 or less kids. And so I'm thinking about Romeo and Denellen Elementary specifically, right? And so thinking about ways we can deliver that in a more efficient manner in the coming years. So thank you for that clarification. I want to know, typically what happens in 5th grade is we have a conversation about consult, right? So asking about how have those gifted meetings gone in 5th grade this year, and how does that look different to ensure that students specifically at North Marion, Bellevue, and Fort King in those 5th grade meetings where they were talking about that transition to middle school and what would have been presumably a conversation about going to consult, because that's what we do, how have those conversations looked different? And for those meetings that occurred prior to this conversation today or in the last month or two, have we gone back to revisit with those families about what delivery could look like if they weren't on consult?
Yeah, so most of our middle schools actually operate as an inclusion model, so the students are receiving gifted services through a core academic class with other advanced peers who may not necessarily be gifted, and so it is more of an inclusion model. High school is where we get to consult only.
Okay.
Because those students have so many different choices in high schools to accelerate themselves and wherever they feel their strengths are, we don't operate the inclusion model. But so to that question, I think the conversations have been good in terms of gathering feedback from families, trying to help educate families on what options are available. I know I've sat in a few meetings where students currently in 6th grade have felt like they could really benefit from having a pull-out gifted program. And so I think that's been encouraging for us to be able to talk about that with principals and help share some of the feedback of parents that if we can start to build this, it may not be right for every student. Some students really will benefit from the inclusion model, but certainly having it available for the students that is a good fit will be useful.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I just want to, two things to finalize. I imagine this conversation, assuming Dr. Campbell and I are still on the board together, will continue to be a conversation that we bring back up regularly, because we're both pretty passionate about the way we deliver gifted services. I don't believe I ever saw a finalized version of the letter we give parents after the gifted screening process is complete. I know we went back and forth and we had a couple different conversations. I don't know that I've ever seen the finalized version that really truly tells a parent what their legal opportunities are. And I will maintain my visceral disagreement with the way we do gifted screenings and the KBIT. For the record, I will say again, my own child KBIT score would not have qualified her by almost 30 points for gifted. And she's very gifted. And so the KBIT, in my opinion, is not a reflective tool to ensure that students are being identified, which is why we're not doing the universal screener anymore, right? Because the universal screener was essentially overshowing some kids and undershowing other kids. And I just think a screener tool should be a piece to a puzzle, not the gate that you have to unlock to get to the puzzle. And that is a barrier that I think this district still needs to improve. I understand we have 2 school psychologists retiring, and our school psychologists are already have a caseload that's incredibly significant. But we are missing kids because we have a tool that is not properly identifying giftedness, and not even the giftedness that Dr. Campbell has spoken about, which means maybe not tied to a paper IQ, but I'm literally talking about a paper IQ. We have kids who are missing opportunities, and their parents do not know their rights, and their parents don't have the soft skills or hard skills to advocate for their child. And so those kids are just missing out on enrichment because a screener didn't deliver a service that or a result. And so I am going to maintain that our screener should be an access point into a further evaluation and just a tool that we're using as a metric for qualification and not a gate stopper. So those are my thoughts on gifted. I am grateful that you guys listened to our passion and did some research and surveying to determine that doing a pilot of an elective in middle school is wonderful. And when my gifted learner gets to North Marion Middle School in 2 years, I pray that that pilot is still available because I will be a parent who takes advantage of it. Board, was there any further? I figured I would impassion someone. Dr. Campbell.
I could not agree more about the KBIT. Your gifted educators are not in favor of how we use that as the gate. I loved that analogy that you used, Dr. James. It's not a piece to the puzzle, it's the gate preventing you to even get to the puzzle. And that's how we've used that. And I completely disagree with us continuing to use it in that way. The students that we are missing, it's in light of how we began our day, it's almost making me question if we need to consider, and I'm not saying we go this route totally, but every student with multiple referrals or multiple quick referrals also just gets a gifted screener. I'm just curious. It's something that, not all of them, certainly, but I want to make sure that we are identifying, and that can be an indication. If we have students that are acting out because they're bored, we're misidentifying why they're having that aggressive behavior, especially in the elementary school years. And that wasn't what we saw today, but I'm just looking forward to the day whenever we have this figured out the best we possibly can. I don't know if there are other districts that have it figured out better. I continue to inquire if we can get some peer-to-peer feedback on what that looks like. But anyway, I completely agree, Dr. James, on the KBIT. I don't like it.
And I think I'll just say, I think it's going to be a work in progress forever because the student is going to change. Mm-hmm. So I don't think we're ever going to land in a place where we have total satisfaction because our learner looks so different now than they did 20 years ago. And so the way we deliver services to the learners is going to have to look different. But ultimately, we need to continue to be as responsive as possible. And districts are doing it different, and they're doing it better. And some of those districts have more resources than we do, and so we get to be creative. Board Member Thrower?
Thank you. Other districts have more resources. Well, we've done a really darn good job of bringing this whole gifted conversation to our legislative delegation, and truly it is their priority to improve public education, and I believe the advocacy just needs to continue. Great point about the root causes of behavior. It may be boredom, it may be just, needing support, impulse control, whatever it is, but they're so often, kids create disruption for a reason. And it could be because they're really smart. and finding out early how to help them channel that would be great. One reason why it's stayed the way it has stayed for all these years is because there has been a constant shortage of financial support and availability of school psychologists. And that speaks to our student board members saying time after time that kids, they are crying out for support and someone to connect with, and really having resources available to them so they can become their best selves. So this is another opportunity. We are down here doing our very best to provide direct services to each and every student so they can succeed. And our passion continues no matter who the kid is. And so I'm grateful for the conversation. When it comes to the marketplace and what we're going to charge, my understanding, at least as of a few months ago, because I was checking in on maybe helping out with it, I think vans were being used to transport some of the kids in gifted programs from one place to another because there wasn't that many of them at one school going to another. And so hopefully that will continue because it's probably more cost effective. But when you're pricing things out, just make sure that if they're going to be driven somewhere, that the cost of transportation is factored in if that's allowed, because you're talking a lot of time and treasure, to make that happen. So just Mr. Ostanek obviously can confirm, the use of the vans and that. So the conversation is great because it lines up, again, with our strategic plan, supporting every student's pathway to success.
All right, thank you. Is there any other board comment on this item? Is there any public comment on this item? All right, well, hearing none, I want to thank Mr. Whitehouse and Ms. Connor for their work on this, and we look forward to getting a report back of how amazing the implementation goes. And we'll move on to 6.1, which is our graduation 2026. Mr. Whitehouse, you also have the stand for that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you very much. So we shared at the beginning of the school year what the graduation schedule was. I know the board expressed some concerns over last year's graduations and some of the challenges we had, and so we were asked to come back this year in the spring and give an update on where we are in terms of making sure we have very smooth graduation processes this year. So we are here to talk about that this morning. I'm going to try to go through everything and answer questions best I can, but Mr. Corley-Taylor is also here in case there's things I can't answer. He's worked very diligently on the security plans to make sure that we have a good plan in place at each of these sites, and we'll certainly answer your questions. We also have packets for you all on your dais, so I believe you all have that information for each of these graduations with your particular parking spaces, your placard for your vehicle, so we'll run through those and certainly can answer questions as we go. So for our general graduation guidelines for this year, some of the things you're going to see at all of our sites, one, we're going to be using the open gate metal detector systems that we purchased this year at each of our facilities that we're going to be hosting graduation at. That's going to be a new process, but something that we need to continue to work on in the future. We know that we want to continue using these at large events at our schools, football games, et cetera, and so we want to make sure that we've got a good process in place. And this is a great opportunity for us to work with our school teams on getting that done. And so we will be partnering with school staff and all of our Safe Schools staff on operating each of those open gate metal detector systems at each of our graduations. We have an updated bag policy that was communicated out to families. So in essence, we don't want to see any bags, with the exception of, we understand there are going to be some challenges with mothers that may have a diaper bag or something that just needs to come with them. And so at each of our graduation sites, we will have an ADA accessible screening point for those who cannot go through the open gate or need to bring in a bag for any particular reason, that we can address that need on site without slowing down the traffic flow. We'll have increased law enforcement protection at each of our sites, particularly making sure that each of the law enforcement officers that are assigned to the detail know what their post is at each of those facilities. We saw that as a critical need last year, and just making sure that we don't have any clustering of folks in any particular place, that our staff and our friends at the law enforcement agency are spread out among the venue so that we can provide adequate coverage and security all throughout. We also will have controlled access with designated entry and exit points for each site, including WEC, which is going to be obviously a very unique situation for us, but we're going to make sure that we are flowing everybody through into those open gate weapon detection systems so that we have a safe screening process. And then we also have a coordinated response plan with law enforcement and emergency medical services at each of our graduation sites.
Could we just pause here real quick, because I know I
Absolutely.
have a few questions, and I know the rest is kind of going into the schools specifically.
Certainly.
I'm sorry, it says metal detection with optional screening.
Yeah, so the optional screening is the ADA compliance. So if we have folks that come in that, for whatever reason, can't go through the metal detector, they're in a wheelchair, they have a
Okay.
pacemaker, they're diabetic, whatever the reason is, we're not going to debate that. We just have a secondary site already set off to the side. We'll just slide those folks right in there. We have a wand that we can screen them with. We can search bags as needed.
Understood. Regarding the bag policy, I was going to ask a question I knew the answer to, so I'm going to ask differently. We have not communicated our bag policy at all, I don't believe. And our first graduation is Friday. So what I know is, as a public member in the community who just looked on our social media, we have nothing on social media about our bag policy, and we have nothing like overall, like there's nothing for the public to consume. So maybe we've sent a sky alert to our students, but if they're inviting, like if the community is going to an event and they have questions about the event, they're going to look on our social media, I would imagine, for information about a policy. So I'm looking to understand how we're communicating our bag policy.
Yeah, so we did push it out on social media a while back. With the updated visual, we have a visual graphic that's going to be available at each of our graduation facilities on large sandwich signs. Schools have also pushed out that information to their families as well. But we can certainly follow up and make sure that any of the schools coming up get it on social media for their specific school social media before that happens.
Well, it has not been posted in the month of May. So if it's a while back is, I mean, at this point, we have graduations on Friday. I would imagine this needs to be a pinned post to the top, because certainly someone would be frustrated if they get through a line and they get all the way to the front and they have a bag that they can't bring in and there are limitations to that bag, and they complain to me. I'm going to say, how did we communicate our bag policy? And I don't know of any, I mean, we haven't done an all call to the entire community about a bag policy. We haven't done a press release about a bag policy.
I've gotten the information
We have.
multiple times.
We have.
As a parent of a graduate, I've gotten the
Absolutely, but I think that's the difference.
It is, but I'm sorry, Mr. Christian, most of our graduations are ticketed events.
Well, they are ticketed events, absolutely,
So
but
then you can't get in without a ticket, and the students who are passing out those tickets are the ones getting the communication.
That's correct.
But we're relying on them to effectively communicate. And so they may or may not effectively communicate the message to grandma.
We have shared initially in April the no bag policy district-wide with every family, every parent, every student. On May the 8th, we sent a Skylert message including the newly designed sign that has the no bag policy and the open gate items that are not allowed to come through. We sent that to all 12th grade families, and principals have also shared that when they are passing out graduation tickets to all of the graduating seniors.
What I'm saying is I think it should be a public facing for the entire community to understand, so that if our senior doesn't effectively communicate with their ticket holders what the expectation is, we can say, well, we didn't just rely on the 12th grader to communicate it. We effectively demonstrated that communication other ways. That's what I'm saying. As someone who would, I mean, if someone asked me what the bag policy is, I wouldn't be able to tell them, and if I go look on social media, I can't find it.
If social media is the concern, we can certainly post it there again, absolutely. And we can post it on the district platforms, and we can ask the schools to post it on their individual channels as well.
Have we done the press release with all of the days for graduation?
Yes, ma'am. That was done back in April.
Yeah, okay.
And that open gate information and no bag policy was included
Yeah.
in that media release.
I just think people have short memories. Obviously, I'm also people, right? And so I think we have an obligation that, especially in the month of May, to refresh people of what all the expectations are.
We're happy to do that. We can do it 15, 20, 30, 50 times, whatever the desire is.
Okay, yeah, any other questions on the graduation guidelines?
My question and concern fits right in with that, because what I visualized is, especially at WEC, so it's very frustrating getting into graduation anyway, and so if someone gets all the way, and then they have a bag that they can't take in, and that's a long hike, to get back to your car, to put it away. So one, do we have a plan for if someone gets to the gate and they can't take their item in, particularly at WEC? What does that look like? And then my other thought was thinking about the 12th grader and the communication. Did we email this is it in all of the student emails for our 12th graders? Okay, to me, that's a good resource, because the night before, when mom says, oh, I didn't tell grandma about what they can bring in, at least she can pull that up and share it. You have something, that you can share with family and friends. Okay. So that was my biggest concern, getting to the gate and then not being able to go in and not making it back in time for graduation.
Yeah, we're not going to let that be a hindrance. That's, again, part of the reason why we have an alternate screening location. It's a slower process, but certainly, just like at a football game, we're going to accommodate, make sure everybody gets in to see the event.
Okay, thank you. Were there any other questions, Dr. Campbell?
Thank you. Again, as a parent of a graduate, I have received a lot of communication, so thank you very much. I just forwarded the voicemail that we received to the grandparents, so that, maybe they don't even use email. Like, I just forwarded the voicemail, so they are very well aware. Those who are ticket holders to graduation know what the bag policy is. My concern, though, is the umbrellas. So I understand that we want no metal. I get it. But oh my word, I understand, but we are also now moving with the exception of the two that are still staying at Eastern Livestock Pavilion, at WEC, they do at least have some cover a bit, but Lake Weir, Dunellen, on these football fields, Bellevue's always been on a football field, but even to that, and that's a concern that I have, so umbrellas, and then my other concern was about the ADA line. Just ensuring that people are well aware of that they need to split, because you're going to have knee and hip replacement people that might not consider themselves, I don't need to carry in a bag, but I do have some metal in my hip, or the pacemakers for sure, they're used to that. But I just, anyway, those are the things that I was concerned about.
Certainly. So we're going to have multiple staff, including Safe Schools and school-based staff, at each of the checkpoints, because that way it's very easy if you walk up with simply an umbrella in your hand to pass it to a staff member. We don't need to search that. We can see it's an umbrella, hand it around to the staff, walk through the open gate system, they hand it back to you on the other side of that open gate system. And for any of our folks that do walk through that don't know they shouldn't walk through and ping positive, we have a secondary screening point that we'll direct them to that will allow us to be able to verify why that's happening.
Okay. Those are my primary questions, concerns. So we would allow umbrellas to be brought in? I mean, we originally we said no. And so maybe we have revised that, but coming to a Marion County Public Schools graduation without an umbrella is not recommended usually.
And, Madam Chair, I think we got, the past few years, we've gotten rained during graduation, so I think we have to kind of think this one out smart with the umbrella policy, especially at WEC. I just keep going back, I think 2 years ago, where we got soaked. So if they see us carrying umbrellas, and we're going to probably be carrying umbrellas, then, we got to make sure we do it the right way.
Okay, sounds like we have our umbrella plan solidified. Any other comments about slide 1? Otherwise, we'll get in. Oh, were you done?
Are we walking through the screener also? Like how does that look?
No, so we have a dignitary side entry point that will take you all
that we'll
through,
talk
and
about in a minute.
You'll see that in your packets for each of those venues, where you'll actually park on the map, and then how we'll actually enter you all in to get you right onto stage and off the stage before the traffic hits.
Yep. Okay, are we ready to go? Board Member Conrad?
Quick question, Mr. Whitehouse, on increased law enforcement protection. So 2 years ago, I believe we had 12 officers. Last year, we had 16 officers per graduation. What is the number looking like for this year?
Yeah, so 16 is going to be the minimum, looking for Corey. 16 is the minimum for all of our venues, plus all 5 of our safe schools officers are going to be there, so we'll have plenty of law enforcement support. And then also the big thing is making sure that they are strategically positioned so that they know where to stand and when and what area of the venue they're responsible for. So Mr. Taylor's done a great job of detailing that in very efficient detail for law enforcement, has met with them to make sure that they understand what the expectation is, what they need to accomplish during this graduation.
That was my second question, because last year we had 16 officers, and we had a situation and nobody was responding. And the board was on stage, and we could all see it happening. But I'm going to not comment on what else was going on, but I'm happy to hear that there's been conversation about what the expectation is for 16 officers to be attentive to what's going on in the stands.
Well, and
I'll comment because I think it's inappropriate that if we're paying law enforcement to keep the law and we have people running out of the stadium, jumping over stuff, and nobody responds. So I think we have to just call it what it is. And when our team does what they need to do, but these are other people that we're paying to do certain things, and we need to make sure we're getting our money's worth.
well,
And that's my last part to my question, Mr. Whitehouse, is the cost of that, are you going to go into that further in the presentation, or is that not covered? For the public's awareness, I would like for them to understand what it costs the district, and that is a huge piece of it.
Yeah, I can break that down for you right now. I have it on my notes on this.
Great, thank you so much.
So for obviously school-based venues, there's no cost to the venue. It's our facility. For the 2 off-site facilities, the World Equestrian Center is $7,500 per graduation, so $7,500 for each Forest and Westport. It's $1,000 for the parking fee, and then if we have to use any barricades with parking, it's $10 per barricade. We also have the ability to rent golf carts at the World Equestrian Center at $65 per day. And then for all of our venues, police detail is at $65 per hour per officer, and we pay a minimum of 4 hours for each of those deputies. So you can do that quick math to get the total price. For the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion, it's obviously a much more economical rental agreement. It's $800 for us to rent the Livestock Pavilion for each of those events. Other considerations, not at WEC, but at Livestock Pavilion, and certainly in some of our schools, they do have to pay for enhanced sound if they don't have adequate sound. So we do pay for someone to come in for several $100s to provide sound for each of the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion graduation. Bleachers.
Can I interrupt you right there? Do we have a different provider for sound this year?
Yes, we do.
Because that also did not go well. Before, during, and after. Okay, thank you
Yes,
for
ma'am.
that.
I've spoken both of those principals multiple times about the sound, and
Okay.
they assured me it is going to go off without a hitch this time. So.
because it does at the rodeo. So that's the part that is just so confusing. If the rodeo can sound the way the rodeo sounds, I don't know why graduation can't sound like the rodeo. I think that's what all of us took away. Correct, but what we're saying is if there's a vendor that works at the Livestock Pavilion for the rodeo, then we would love to also have good sound.
Madam Chair?
Yeah.
Mr. Whitehouse, because I'm about the security thing. So do we have, and you got Mr. Taylor behind you, do we have the capability that if someone, because we're doing two a day, if someone shows out at the morning, do we have the capability to go ahead and get them blocked from coming to the next one, or the next one, or the next one, that fast? Trespassed or something? Because if they show out at one, they don't need to come to they don't need to come to any more.
Probably.
That's just where I'm at.
They probably wouldn't come to another one.
Yeah, they would. Yeah, they would. Oh, yeah.
Depends on who they are.
Oh, yeah. If you got family members at more than one school, yeah, you would.
So the short answer is, and I'm sorry, Chair, Board, Superintendent. Short answer is yes, sir. Part of the planning is there will be an intelligence officer, someone, I mean, it's similar that you would have your logistics, but this individual will be responsible for real-time communication information, making sure that we share that information out. In the event that something like that would happen, we would immediately trespass if the individual isn't arrested in the first incident, but they would be trespassed, and then we would ensure that there was a bulletin that was communicated to the remainder of the venues.
And the reason I ask that is because we could have potentially someone cut up at Livestock Pavilion, but the next graduation is at North Marion High School, is at World Equestrian or Bellevue. I'm just saying out of order, where it's not the same venue, but it's still a graduation. I want to make sure that they're not showing up.
Absolutely.
Understood. And yes, while that trespass, using the example you provided, the trespass would be good for that particular location, but we could still communicate, and if that individual showed up at a new venue, then we could just reissue the trespass warning
Thank
for
you.
that location.
Dr. Kimball?
My question is about the audio at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion. So while I understand we have a new vendor, while I understand that the audio works great with the rodeo, what the audio doesn't do, potentially even at the rodeo, is have monitors on the actual floor. And so that has always been the biggest issue. Yes, the stands can hear the student speeches, but the graduates cannot hear, nor can the platform, ever, at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion. So that has always been, Mr. Christian isn't a part of, it's an outside vendor. So but that we have monitors on this stage so that we can hear what's happening in the room. But that is not how, and so I'm curious to know if our principals have addressed that aspect of the audio issue, because that has always been consistent regardless of the vendor. We have never been able to hear on the floor. Again, you're able to hear in the stands because that's the sound system they're using. They're not intentional about ensuring the people on the floor are able to hear.
Yes, ma'am. That's a question I have not asked, but I will certainly ask that as soon as we get out of this work session. We still have a week to go for the livestock, so I can get that.
Thank you. And if it is an additional cost, I mean, it needs to be done. That has to be intentional, because the other venues, we don't have that same challenge because the sound is provided in a different way. But in that unique venue, speakers are all to the stands and not to the floor.
Certainly.
Board Member Thrower?
Thank you, and this is specific to the livestock pavilion. Since I've been on the board, I've parked in a different area, so I don't know if the horse officers are still being used as part of the security plan. Is that still part of this security plan, the mounted units?
No, ma'am.
They're not for this one, no.
Something to think about in the future.
And one other thing, I had a recommendation, I guess, to consider from Safe Schools. The perspective from the stage is unique, and this is my, I guess is it my third or fourth graduation, fourth graduation. There's something every time at the Livestock Pavilion, specifically. And so we don't have a radio, we don't have a way to communicate, we might have our cell phones and we're texting. I would love if someone from our Safe Schools department was camped out near the stage so that your perspective you could gain is similar to ours. There was not just one event at that graduation, there was 3 fights that night that all occurred, that all officers missed, but because of our perspective and maybe our ability to pay closer attention than the officers who cost $4,000 for 4 hours, we were able to see these things. And so just a point of consideration potentially is someone that's from our house to be near the stage so that we would be able to gain their attention if we saw something that we thought was concerning, because often we're just kind of sitting and observing for most of the graduation. And so sometimes we see things that other people don't. So just as a consideration.
And Madam Chair, let me say this because I want to be very clear. I think our law enforcement do a tremendous job with the number of people that are moving through those graduations, but it's just those couple of incidences that have happened in the past that just cast a negative light on some things. So we appreciate what our law enforcement agencies do. It's a huge undertaking with that many people everybody wants to be there to celebrate their kid. Everybody wants to be there to enjoy the festivities. But there's just always a couple of bad actors that just try to ruin it for everybody. So we just want them to deal with that as quickly and as efficiently and as quietly as possible, so that it doesn't tarnish the image of these kids. Graduation, maybe for some kids, this is the first and last graduation they may ever have in life. So I guess that's why we're probably so adamant about this conversation.
Absolutely. Board Member Conrad?
Yes, I just have two quick things, and they're really just a share from observing over the last few graduations at the Livestock Pavilion. One thing that's really challenging for me, and I don't know about the rest of the board because, of course, we didn't discuss it, but as a board member and any other official that's sitting up front, that tent piece is behind us. There's a lot of, and I'll say riffraff going on behind that screen, which is really unsettling for me personally. So I don't know if that's something that you guys can maybe just keep an eye on. I think it'll be difficult to monitor the whole time, but I sure would appreciate it. And the other piece is a troublesome spot was right as everyone was coming in. I felt like law enforcement really wasn't engaged at the beginning, and so people filed in and stood and gathered and chatted, which held up the procession of other people coming in, which then, once we were ready to get started, everyone was behind, like everybody was behind. People couldn't get to their seats. So being proactive as people are coming into the facility, particularly the Livestock Pavilion, I think will save a lot of headache as we begin the program. So I just wanted to offer those two bits of information. Thank you.
Board Member Thur.
And in the midst of all this important, problem solving and prevention, I do want to give a compliment to Vanguard High School. In the 7 years that I've been attending their graduation, well, I guess more than that because two of our boys graduated from Vanguard, the ceremonies have been incredibly professional and dignified and well-controlled and lack of chaos. And I can only attribute that to really good planning and God's grace and the expectation being set ahead of time of what we're all supposed to be there for. So these conversations are, sadly, they have to be really important, and we have to really look at the details for the time that society's in right now. And I'm not saying this just because I'm a horse lover. I'm saying this because having mounted units does help create a peaceful situation. So, and we've got such great relationships with our horse community. So I truly hope that they can be incorporated in the future. I just think it's another layer. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think we're good to proceed through the rest of the slides. I'm glad we were able to kind
Let's
of
go to
cover
slide
that before we got into each school specific. So, thank you.
All right, so our first graduation is tomorrow morning at Hillcrest, and that one is going to be held in the Hillcrest Gymnasium at 11 o'clock. This one is pretty simple. It's a small venue, small crowd. Safe Schools is going to be handling the security for that, and of course there's limited seating, so there's not going to be a large population to be able to manage at that venue. And as a reminder, this is Ms. Manresa's final graduation at Hillcrest, and we're all sad to see her go, but excited for her future as well. So tomorrow night we will have Lake Weir High School's graduation. This one was at the Livestock last year. It is at the Lake Weir High School Stadium this year at Lake Weir High School. And so that one will begin at 6 o'clock tomorrow evening. We're going to open the gates for this graduation at 4:30. Keep in mind tomorrow is a school day, so our priority is going to be to clear out all of the school populations, students and faculty that are not staying before we open the gates, which is why we're waiting until 4:30 to do so. We will have 2 screening access points at Lake Weir High School that will be operated by both school staff and Safe Schools. And then again, we will make sure that our officers are strategically placed around the venue. And certainly you'll see within your packets where you all should park for Lake Weir High School. Any questions about that school?
Nope. Nope. I think you're probably good to just run through them.
Okay. All right, Saturday morning, this Saturday will be Bellevue High School at 8 a.m. That The gates for that one will open at 6 a.m., so it'll be nice and early. We have overflow parking available at Bellevue Middle School next door. And also, we have an agreement with the nearby Greek Orthodox Church to use their facility if we need the extra space as well. Again, with Bellevue High School, we're going to run 2 screening access points with the open gate to get folks in, and then making sure, again, our officers are strategically placed around that venue. Denellen High School will be next Thursday at 6 p.m. This one, again, is a school day, so our priority will be clearing out the school traffic first before we open up the gates, but we will open gates at 4:15 for this graduation. We do have additional parking available at Denellen Elementary next door if we run out of space at the high school stadium parking area. We will also run 2 screening access points for this one, and then making sure our officers know their strategic location for this venue. Vanguard High School will be next Friday. That's our first one at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion. It starts at 8 a.m. and the gates will open at 6 a.m. That's a teacher work day for us. So we will not have any students because the students' final day will be next Thursday. This year we have access to some enhanced parking at the Southeastern Livestock Pavilion. It's through Gate 5, which is back behind the pavilion where the new development is back there. We did not have access to it last year. They have granted us access to park there for overflow, so we're excited to have more parking available, which will hopefully help clear the facility out faster too if we don't have everybody congregated into one spot. We are going to run 2 screening access points at the Livestock Pavilion. They will be at the main entry to the livestock facing the street where we're going to funnel everybody through. I'm sure you all know the layout of the Livestock Pavilion, but we are going to be barricading strategically some of the areas closer to where the animal holdings are to make sure we funnel all of the traffic flow of folks around to the front. So even those that park in the back will be directed all the way to the front of the gates to be able to enter into the facility through our screening access points. North Marion High School will be next Friday evening, also at the Livestock Pavilion. That's a 7 p.m. graduation. We're opening gates at 5 o'clock, so we'll have ample time in between those graduations to clear out everybody and get reset for the next graduation. Same layout as we did for the Vanguard, so that one should be hopefully just another rehearsal for us. Forest High School is going to be Saturday, May 30th, next Saturday, and that one starts at 8 a.m. at the World Equestrian Center. That's the first of our 2 graduations that are taking place at WEC this year. We will start opening gates at 6 a.m. And we know Forest High School starts to crowd that place up right at 6 a.m., so we'll make sure we have folks there early. We have quite a few district staff that have volunteered to come out and support at WEC for both those graduations to make sure that we have ample adults to be able to funnel traffic flow. We do have parking attendants available from WEC on golf carts that will be assisting law enforcement with the parking setup to make sure that we get folks parked quickly and into the venue. We are going to run 4 screening access points at WEC, and we're going to funnel. Again, this is going to require a lot of effort on our part to make sure we have successfully barricaded, because you know WEC has quite a few entry points from all different angles, but we're going to have those blocked off and funnel people around to our 4 access points. And we obviously have doubled the access points here because of the size of the venue and because of the size of the crowd, and we want to make sure we get everybody screened and in before 8 a.m. Westport will be the second one at WEC. Note this is an earlier time. It's typically been a 6 o'clock graduation. It's a 5 o'clock graduation this time. Hopefully, fingers crossed, we get ahead of the thunderstorms this year, as that's been our bugaboo the last few graduations with Westport. Same setup. We'll be opening gates at 3 o'clock for this one, also running those 4 access point screenings for folks at the main stadium entrance. And then Marion Technical College is going to be June 15th at 6 p.m. That's at the First Baptist Church again, and Safe Schools will provide our security and support for that venue as well. Again, this is an all-adult graduation. And then our last one of the year is going to be our summer graduation, which we had a great attendance last year. We're excited to be able to offer this again this summer right here in this very venue. Will be Thursday, July 23rd at 6 p.m. We invite all of our schools to participate, so any of our students that finish up during summer school and meet the requirements of graduation will be eligible to participate, and Safe Schools will handle our security. And just as a reminder, one more time, I think we've said it at least 35 times this year, certificates of completion do not walk this year. And so that's been certainly a point of communication for our schools throughout the year, that any of our students who don't meet those qualifications will not participate. It will only be standard graduates who have met all the requirements for graduation. And with that, I'll certainly answer any other questions.
All right, I open it up to the board for any further remarks. Reverend Cummings.
Mr. Whitehouse, thank you. Thank you for this. I just have a question about that summer graduation. Students that will graduate over the summer, are they wearing their schools?
Yes, so they will
Cap and
wear,
gown.
they will wear their school cap and gown and receive a diploma from their school. And it was really exciting last year, and we had all the colors represented last year. We sit them together by their base school, and so that they can all come up as a class from their school together.
And I ask that because that's an incentive for, a kid that may not got over the finish line to still push, because they will still be recognized from their school. So they can still say, I graduated from this high school, and it's not
Absolutely.
anything else. So thank you.
Absolutely. Conrad?
Yes. Mr. Whitehouse, I just wanted, if you would, share a message with our high school administrators. The board had been asking for several years not to have doubled up graduations, because we're all really active and want to participate. And so this year, we don't have any that are doubled up, and so just want to say we really appreciate that. I know that was a sacrifice for someone, didn't get the exact time and place that they wanted, so just thank you.
Yes, ma'am, and we've already mapped out next year's graduations to include South Marion High School. We'll share that in the future once we get past these graduations.
Wonderful. Board Member Thrower, you had something?
Yes, just thank you all, for your great work. There's so much to negotiate and broker, and you want to make everybody happy if you can, or at least grudgingly accepting of the reasons why they're not happy. So that's very appreciated. When did we start doing the summer graduations? I feel like it's been a few years now.
Yes, it has been a few years. I'd have to
This will be year 3.
agree. There you go.
Yes, I'm just so glad that has been incorporated and become a thing, and you never know if it's going to be a thing until you see who shows up, and more are coming, and it really is an honorable graduation. It's not just an also ran, and that's so important for the kids to know that, you're going to get a stage. Just get it done, and we'll be there to celebrate you.
Absolutely.
And
Reverend Cummings.
one more question. And we do have a rainy day plan for each graduation, alternative. I just remember a couple years ago, a parent just went off, just like, we control a lot of things, but we don't control the rain or the weather. And it was just, that was the one at Westport, at WEC, and we ended up doing the graduation inside. What's our alternate if we're at a school or at livestock is okay?
So we certainly have rainy day plans for each one. The caveat to that, which we saw with Westport last year, is when it looks nice when we're starting graduation, and then all of a sudden, halfway through an hour-long graduation, the clouds come out of nowhere and it starts to rain. At that point, we just have to proceed and press on, because trying to scramble and relocate everybody at that point would be way too complicated. But at WEC, we do have the indoor facility, the Arena 1, which is where the graduates gather. It is set up and staged for graduation. So if it was a total washout, our first plan of action is to wait it out and delay the graduation as long as we can. But if it gets to a point where it doesn't look like the rain's going to cease, we would have an opportunity at WEC to be able to do the graduation inside. Obviously, the view is not as good because it's not staggered stage seating. It's
Right.
a flat across seating all the way across, but they do have jumbotrons available for you to be able to see your graduates. At each of the schools where we're graduating, it's the same deal. We would have to wait it out. There is possibility of graduating in the stage, and you could do, broadcasting through classrooms. It's never been appealing for us. Typically for schools, if it looks like a washout, if we can and we can't get it in that day, we try to come back the next morning and do it first thing in the morning. We've done that at Westport a few times when it was just a total washout and there was nothing we could do. But our first course of action is to wait. It's Florida, it rains, 30 minutes later it stops raining and we move on.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is the length of time it takes to get those kids across. Some schools, they're calling names and it's, and in some schools it's like watching paint dry. So I think they kind of need to have a system of how to get them across fast.
Westport probably calls names faster than anybody. They just have 750 graduates, so it
Yeah.
takes a long time, even with 2 people going back and forth reading names
Yeah.
to read them, but they run in a
Yeah,
clip.
you move 'em.
Yes. The efficiency is certainly different for different schools.
Correct.
So, absolutely. Okay, well, is there any further board comment on our graduation update?
Thank you, Mr. Whitehouse.
And I want to say too, thank you to Mr. Taylor for this comprehensive packet that we got. It has all of our directions, it has visuals, it has our parking pass, and I feel confident that we are all prepared to have wonderful participation from the board's perspective for graduation. So thank you for that. Is there any public comment on graduation? All right, hearing none. Our next item is 7.1 Booster Stadium. Mr. Whitehouse, you're still the guy.
Get comfortable
Need
here.
a stool?
Have some water?
Yeah, so again, this is a topic that we've talked about for most of the year. We've brought several presentations, really kind of talked about where this could potentially go. Today, we'd like to bring to you an update in design and also an ask of how we could get this moving at a much faster pace if it's the board's pleasure to be able to move with this program soon. So again, just to recap why we need it, Booster Stadium is over 50 years old. We've done very little work to improve the facility at that site. It really needs desperately new locker rooms, new restrooms. The concession facilities need to be completely redone. And we certainly could benefit from upgraded playing surfaces, which we know we're starting to do now at our new high school and at Westport High School, and so we know that's a future benefit to us as well. And upgrades to the road systems. I'm sure you all have been there and you understand the gravel roads that we have are difficult to maintain. And so we've got a lot of challenges at that site that will require a good bit of money to be able to get that facility in a positive working order and make it a community piece for the city of Ocala that can be cherished for generations to come. So I wanted to give you a quick glimpse of what could be possible. We partnered with Monarch Designs Concepts to be able to look at how we could really imagine this stadium for the price range that we were expecting. And I think that's the big thing for us. So we met with them last week. We actually looked at quite a few high school stadium options, including quite a few in Texas, to get some visual concepts of what this could look like for us at Booster Stadium, trying to put together a world-class venue that would be, for us, to be accessible for hosting state championships and ultimately to be able to rent out this facility for future use as a revenue-generating resource for the school district and hopefully a community partnership with the city of Ocala as well to benefit all of our community. And so you'll see the quick redesign there that we've done. One of the things that we looked at already with our cost for this facility is switching from concrete bleachers to metal bleachers, which is about a $5 million cost savings for us. We've always kind of pictured metal bleachers as they are now, but when we looked at some of the Texas high school football stadiums that use metal bleachers, they're just absolutely gorgeous the way they've been able to design those, and so we were able to take that concept and put together this visual in front of you. So you'll see we're targeting 8,000 seats, so even balanced 4,000 seats on either side of that venue. Again, the turf field, rubberized track, which would make us accessible for us to host state championships for football, soccer, track and field. We've also talked previously about the potential for a semi-pro soccer league being able to lease the facility from us. And so all of those are still possibilities with this design. So the estimated cost for the stadium is about $25 million. Monarch put their estimate somewhere between 20 and 30 million, just depending on the level of playing field that we want, the level of track surface that we want, what the current construction costs are at the time. Certainly part of our work, if we do move forward with this, would be to really get into the nitty-gritty and look at what we really need and where we need to scale back to make sure that we stay within what we're anticipating for our cost. So our request, if the board is willing to move forward, is to fund 20 of the 25 million through a bond, through certificate of participation, and then allow us to be able to start a capital campaign to try and generate the other 5 million. I think what we've talked about internally is 25 million is a huge price tag to try and generate that amount of funding from just the community. But if we have a starting point with what we're willing to invest from the board's perspective, and we show that we're ready to start moving on this, I think it's going to be a lot easier for us to then be able to start a capital campaign with that head start and really start to generate some public interest in building this new stadium. And so we would start that capital campaign in the fall with the target of trying to raise all of those funds by next summer while we're doing the design concept totally for the price out, and then be able to hopefully get started on the construction for the following school year, which would then, of course, require us to find an alternative playing location for Vanguard High School for that school year while the construction takes place. So this would include installing the artificial turf field and synthetic track, also making sure that we have adequate seating capacity for both our needs for the state hosting and for potentially having a semi-pro soccer league that would generate some revenue. And certainly one of the benefits to us is it does reduce some existing expenses that we have specifically for facility maintenance for Booster Stadium itself, but also, as we've talked now with graduation, this is a potential great graduation venue for us that would be of no cost that we could use for future graduations. So that's the quick sum of it, and I will certainly answer any questions you all may have.
All right, thank you, Mr. Whitehouse. Who would like to kick it off? Board Member Thrower?
I would love to kick off the stadium conversation. You know, some things are really worth waiting for. The timing has to be right. The funding resources have to be available. The community's appetite needs to be, you know, wet for it. And I truly believe that we're in the sweet spot, finally. So this is really exciting. One of the questions that I do have, and I think this is the hinge for the success of this project, is over and over and over what I am hearing from the community is that they are over the top supportive as long as it is accessible.
Yes, ma'am. So you'll see that I listed in the next steps. If approved, one of the things that I'm going to do next is to reach out to the city of Ocala, reach out to Pete Lee, and see if we can talk about an interlocal agreement and what that could look like for shared use. I know Ms. Usher has shared with us several interlocal agreements from Palm Beach County that they've done with sports complexes between the city and the school district, just as kind of a framework of what this could look like. And so, yes, I see the potential benefit down the road of this being a community resource. Certainly we have the first right of refusal with that facility since it's our facility, so the priority would go to our events taking place there, but then beyond that, the potential is there to be able to open this up as a recreational facility.
Similar, for just as a comparison to,
City Park.
excuse me, you know, like Jervy Gant and other places. So if someone wants to get up with the 5 a.m. run club and go over there and do their thing, that it would be available. And I would imagine doing a public partnership agreement is going to require attorneys. And I know that we have the best man for the job sitting to my right here. I also know that the city is aware of this project. They're probably waiting for the ask, and so I really love the timeline as well. It sounds like we've got the exuberance to really kick this off, and it's always great to see Megan Magamol in the audience, and something tells me she's going to be a big part of this project. That's all I have. Thanks.
Thank you. Who else has comments? Dr. Kimball.
Sure. So I first of all, thank you. I appreciate that you have definitely looked to Texas because that's where they build things big for high schools. So I'm grateful for that. So much of this is really on the right track. So what I gathered is we're planning to have a capital campaign for about 9 months to raise $5 million. I pulled up our school board policy 7250 because while it's titled commemoration of school facilities, it doesn't really speak to other naming opportunities, and you're probably well aware of that. That causes me pause a bit, honestly, because as the overseers of all the money, my question about the capital campaign is who runs it and who puts in the dollar amounts for those naming opportunities? Is it the board needs to discuss? If you want to be named whatever Booster Stadium, it's this amount of money for this time frame, year over year, you're paying it? Or is it the district gets to figure that out and we just cash the checks? That you probably are already having those conversations. I saw you look at Attorney Blackman in the process. So we have never had a different opportunity to consider this policy outside of just schools.
Yes.
Could you
And-
expand? Maybe can you expand a little bit on your conversations?
Yes, so Attorney Blackman, Ms. Magamo, and I have already met to talk about this. We've pulled together some ideas. We were hoping Neola might have a template that had a little bit more concise or a little bit more expansive language than what we have right now. They don't, so we're going to get back together as soon as the board agrees that this is the direction we want to go, so that we can put together a more comprehensive board policy on naming, what the funding thresholds would be for naming rights, what that looks like in the future, and so that would be a policy we would bring back for the board to be able to review.
Okay, all right, that's terrific. I mean, I'm certain there are other districts that have them, they just may not use Neola. I know Volusia, for example, they don't use Neola. They just voted last week to use Neola.
Yes.
So they would have a policy somehow that's established, and they certainly have buildings named after people.
Yes, we have a few that we've looked at to give us some ideas.
Right. So that is, I just want to ensure we have all of that hashed out and knowing before you get your name on something there, that this board gets to weigh in a bit on what that looks like. And thank you for being here, Ms. Magmal. You already kind of got a nod from another board member. At one time, when something like this was talked about, I'm curious about the capacity of the Public Ed Foundation to manage a capital campaign. I don't know if she wants to speak to that or if you want to speak to that. I know that has been conversation in the past, and capacity is a challenge, I know, so.
Yes, so we would manage it internally as a school district. We've already had an initial meeting just to kind of talk about the framework of what this would look like. The foundation would be kind of our holding for the funds as the opportunity to make the donation through the foundation, which would really be the extent of their involvement. Although certainly we welcome Ms. Magno's brainpower to our group to be able to just talk through ideas of what this can look like, but this is something that we would manage as a school district.
Okay, sure. That's helpful to know. Understanding the capacity issues, but also understanding you have the ability to be the custodian of the funds, so that tax donations tax deductions can happen for people. So I'm trying to think of those are the two main concerns that I had. I know we're going to at least address on the upcoming slide about the moving of the CDL program potentially, but in order for this to be that revenue generating facility that our district can really take advantage of, it has to be all that this is imagined to be at this point. I think 8,000 seats is the sweet spot. I know we talked about 10,000. I don't know that we need to get to that size. So everything about this so far conceptually, I think is the direction that, while I am not ever a big fan of taking out another loan to do something like this, and I'm calling it a loan, it's certificate of participation, a bond. I am in favor of doing something like that again is revenue generating for generations to come, and that makes a ton of sense to me. So.
Thank you. Reverend Cummings, did you have an opportunity to talk yet, or did you have comments? Okay, Board Member Conrad.
I just have two quick questions, Mr. Whitehouse, and one, thank you for the presentation. It's very exciting. And I think it'll be something you'll have to bring back to me, so I'm not looking for an answer right now. But one, I'm interested in what Booster Stadium property is worth right now. I think it's important that that's included in the conversation. And then two, I would be interested in numbers of what we anticipate a ballpark figure revenue per year. Like annually, what do we think we'll be able to bring in with this facility? And those are my two concerns.
Certainly.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Okay, you want to go first? Okay, Mr. Tucker is working closely with other athletic directors around the state on what they are using for their fees for certain events. So that number will be helpful too, just to give us an idea of what will we be able to generate for renting the track or the other facilities.
Thank you.
And so I haven't been able to discuss and share my remarks yet. So I love the idea of a revitalized booster stadium. My yes to a new booster stadium comes only if it is a facility available to the community. That means that we have an agreement with the city of Ocala, and we have some level of someone else managing opening a facility at 5 a.m. So Brick City Park is an example of a park, right? People go, they run, they do run clubs there. There are gates, but I've never been there at 5 a.m., so I can't tell you whether someone unlocks the gate at 5 a.m. or not at Brick City Park specifically, but I know that the streets are blocked, so I think probably yes. We don't have the capacity to run a Parks and Recreation Department in Marion County Public Schools. So my yes to this $25 million ask comes with the also that it will be a fully functional community asset. And truly, like, my yes is limited to that. So if we are not able to figure that out, then I am not interested in fully funding this project to this capacity. I don't think that it would be equitable to the other schools that need the revitalization as well, if it's simply still just going to be Boosters Stadium, or Vanguard Stadium. Our community is screaming for access to a facility like this for a variety of purposes, that many of which are revenue generating for our community, but also for recreation. And I want to be able to figure out how to make that happen. And I think we will. Like, I don't think it's not going to happen, but we have to work through those details for me to feel confident moving forward. So for me, I know the big question is, are we agreeing to the money? And that's the question before the board, and I would like for us all to be able to give a clear statement to Mr. Whitehouse on that. My understanding and my question would be, is this something, a bond we're going to seek independently, or are we going to wait till the conversation in July regarding the bigger operations conversation that may include components that were previously presented as part of this bond to then have a greater conversation about a bond amount? So I would like to understand that, so that, is this just a piece to the larger conversation? And then I would want to nail down some MOUs and some interlocal agreements with the city before we move forward. That'd be something as a board member I would want to see. Dr. Campbell?
So you said something that I don't disagree with most of what you said, with the exception of calling it Vanguard Stadium. So I know that it currently is called Booster Stadium because the funds were raised by Forest and Vanguard boosters back decades and decades ago. The way I see this revitalization is this is a Marion County Public Schools asset that Vanguard happens to play at.
Oh, I agree with you.
So I just want to ensure,
That's what I'm saying, is I don't want it to just be Vanguard Stadium anymore.
Oh, absolutely. Similar to how we've operated the gymnasium on this campus, it is a Marion County Public School asset that Osceola just happened to have to play all of their games until we had a gym. So that's one piece to this. I respect the thought of obviously having a interlocal agreement with the city of Ocala, their Parks and Rec, to work with us in that capacity. Interestingly, Brick City is actually a Marion County park, not a city of Ocala park, so that actually is kind of a question to then ask. If the city isn't willing to, or whatever, then maybe we pursue the county to, even though it is in the city, Brick City is a county park. Oh. So I didn't know if you all were aware of that, but that actually falls under the Marion County purview. So I just want to make sure we're not limiting the conversations that we're having there, and maybe it's a multi-governmental interlocal agreement, and we all three have some kind of shared aspect to that. But again, I want to ensure that we continue to focus on this being revenue generating, and the more we get into interlocal agreements, then there will be cost savings and cost benefits to other governmental agencies, and I want to ensure that we are getting the biggest bang for the buck on that. So I don't want to think that just because we have an interlocal agreement with another governmental entity that they get to use it for free too. And so, perhaps, it
Well-
kind of depends on what all is being asked of them, and potentially it's a number of events per year or something that they can use it for free. There's just a lot of opportunity there for how that can be set up.
I think we have to work through that, right? Because what I'm looking at is ultimately if someone else is gonna open this park, because that's what it will be, is a park, a stadium that's inside of a park every day at 5 a.m. as an example, there's a valuation for that. And I don't wanna have to pay for that service, but I wanna be able to offer a service in lieu of that, right? And so, figuring that out and massaging that through interlocal conversations, and in our technical working group, I think is the best place to have those conversations. But I think for me, I wanna know where we're gonna be able to land tangibly so that we're not all invested and then we get to the end and it all falls apart and now we don't have a resource that the community can use. So that's what I'm trying to avoid. Reverend Cummings?
So I do feel that this needs to move forward, but I also feel that it needs to move forward in collaboration with everyone. This is not a all us thing because it has the potential to generate revenue. It has the potential to benefit the county as a whole. So, but I do feel that if we're moving forward, we're the controlling factor in this. No matter what, we're the controlling factor with the necessary MOUs, with the necessary interlocal agreements. I think the cost of this is a huge cost, but between all of the entities in this county playing a part in raising these parks, I'm sorry.
You must have said something that sounded like Siri.
Must have. That I think that all of us have a part to play with us having the biggest interest in it. It's not Vanguard's stadium. Booster Stadium came out of the 60s because they moved from Webb Field and all that stuff. But we need to make sure that Vanguard has a home to play in.
Absolutely.
Period.
They'll have the nicest home.
Right. So, but I'm in agreement that we need to do it in a collaborative function throughout the county.
Board Member Thor, I see you leaning forward.
Thank you. The community just really wants to know, is this going to be a go? And there's a lot of details that need to be worked out. The most important thing I think I would like to know is, as far as the bonding process is concerned, would we be able to get a letter of confirmation saying, yes, Marion County Public Schools absolutely would qualify for this amount of money, you know, once we request it. But to know that the $20 million is going to be available, that we can check off the list. Because in my mind, that's what's going to inspire people to come up with the other $5 million, and hopefully even a little more than that. So that's the first thing on my list. The second thing on my list is that the community has been asking and pleading for a place to be proud of that's for the local kids and for the local community. And this checks that box. The accessibility in terms of the location just can't be beat. So therefore, it is our task as community leaders to work together on making it accessible.
Yep. And I think we can figure it out.
I know we can figure it out. And the third thing I will say is that every high school has a stadium, except for Vanguard. And I completely agree with the vision of this being for everybody and also the home of the Vanguard Knights.
Yes, agreed. So let's just do a real quick, are we all in agreement that we want to, we're willing to bond the 20 million to do this project?
Hopefully
Yes?
it'll make us a lot of money, yes.
Okay, so I hear a yes from all of us that we want to move forward. The second part to that question is, are we moving forward now with that, or are we waiting until the July conversation to come up with a final number for what your ask is for us to bond?
So I can certainly get Mr. Rios-Welch to respond to that a little more eloquently, but I think part of his work is going to be looking for the total amount that we can bond, and then if we need to pare that down after our July presentation, we certainly can. But that process is going to take 4 to 6 months before we can really get a final, here's what we've got. So we have plenty of time now with board consensus that I can start working on the interlocal agreement process. We can start making sure we've got a really good, solid capital campaign plan and start rolling that out in the fall.
Okay. Do we feel comfortable with that, board? Yes, Board Member Thrower, you had something?
Oh, consensus first, right? So yes, I feel comfortable with that. I then wanted to share something quick.
Yeah, I think I saw all the head shake, so Dr. Campbell?
Yeah, I wanted to say, absolutely move forward with it. 5 million capital campaign, but if we get 5 million, don't stop there. Because every dollar that we raise means taxpayer dollars are not having to go to fund this certificate of participation. So the more aggressive that capital campaign can be, the better. Multi-year agreements, all of that in place can just really get this off the ground. I'm excited about the potential.
Board Member Thrower, you had something?
Yes, just a quick acknowledgement. When I think of protecting the board's interests, I obviously think of Attorney Powers, but I also didn't want to leave out Attorney Blackman because he's going to be a big part of this. And I neglected to mention your name specifically earlier, but don't think I wasn't thinking of you.
Thank you. And I did receive, I've been in communication with Mr. Torres, who leads some running efforts in our community, and he's been very vocal, and he's really appreciative of the board's willingness to have these discussions, but also very interested in being a supporter of capital campaigns and fundraising. So, board, what I hear from all of us is a yes to proceed with this project and what it's going to take to get it done. Is that correct? All right, so that's what you hear, Dr. Brewer.
Thank you.
All right, so is there any more board comment on this item? All right, and is there any public comment on this item? All right, well, hearing none, we're gonna, yes?
Since you mentioned public comment on this item, Mr. Del Torres, he shared that, of course, this is the one time of a planned family vacation.
Yes.
He's out of town, and he was so sad that he couldn't be here to share his support and willingness for the capital campaign. He's already shared some names that I've shared with staff. So yeah, he's all about it. Very exciting.
All about it. And I'm, my daughter is learning to love running, so I guess I'm gonna learn to love running too. So maybe we'll be a big part of running at the future of Booster Stadium. So, all right, well then we will move into item 8.1, which is the board realtor discussion. Attorney Powers, I think you're taking the lead on this.
Yes, ma'am. So we've had some discussion amongst the board about the possibility of hiring a realtor on an ongoing basis under contract to manage some of our school board property sales and marketing. So in an effort to find more about how we would go about doing that, we looked at RFPs from other counties, and request for proposal is the right thing to do and what I would recommend in this case so that we can select, it needs to be open for a bid. But then the question is, what do we want it to look like? And that's an open topic for board discussion. What services do we want provided? What scope of work? I will indicate to you that I've reviewed a few of these, and the one that I settled on that is the most that I would like to see in a contract, is most comprehensive, was Brevard County. Brevard County does have a contract with a realtor, which I believe hits all of the marks that we have. It gives us quite a bit of interesting, quite a bit of coverage on a number of topics. And of course, the contract is something that is negotiated finally after a request for proposal is entered. However, the scope of services I was impressed with Brevard counties. That's a matter of public record, so I looked it up. It applies, the scope of work is for marketing and sale of select district properties, which may include vacant property or property with buildings. That's the primary scope of work. Assisting the district in finding compatible co-location uses for underutilized district facilities. Identifying and facilitating acquisition of property that may meet the district's school or operational needs. That's a secondary scope of work if they need it. and general real estate consulting services, if they need be, as an ancillary scope of work. Now, one of my immediate questions when I was looking at this is, how do we deal with the number of factors that we have where we don't necessarily need a realtor to engage on a project, but we need some advice from a realtor? And the way that Brevard County's contract handles that is to, there are 5 hours per month that are just included as free consultation with a realtor, which I believe would be more than adequate for most needs unless we had a serious project. And then above that, there's an hourly rate, which I think is overall fair. I believe that is something also that we could probably manage to replicate through the services of an RFP. Now, as to the actual sale of properties and projects, that's going to be subject to a commission. What that commission is going to be is depending upon market forces and depending upon the locale. In Brevard County, there was a 4% commission, and it was a 4.25% commission, and it was 4% for anything over 1 million. So what we land on for that number is all subject to contract negotiation after an RFP. I did reach out to Mr. Collins, who's our request for proposal expert on this matter. He's actually he's going to be out until after June 10th. After that time, he'll be prepared to assist with an RFP. We will need to, the RFPs that I saw from other districts, they're very varied. They're widely varying. And we will need to create our own RFP that kind of lays out the kind of contract we're looking for. So that is going to take a little bit of work and a little bit of focus to get it right, because garbage in, garbage out. We want to make sure that our RFP is one that gives us the kind of information that or the kind of potential contracts that we want. But I wanted to open this up for board discussion to indicate any thoughts you have on the matter, because my recommendation, if the board wants for us to hire a realtor, my recommendation is to closely follow Brevard's contract structure, not necessarily exactly, but the contract structure, I would want to closely follow that. And I would want to seek an RFP to do it. Now, I've given you some of the generalized structure of Brevard's, but I wanted to allow the board to communicate their thoughts, ideas, so I can absorb that, take it in, and be better informed when I begin the process of working with Mr. Collins on an RFP, if that's what we choose, and begin the process of negotiating a contract or preparing contract terms.
Thank you, Attorney Powers, for your perspective. So, board, I open it up for discussion. Does anyone want to lead us off? I'll just say, I think what you've shared is good. I think especially if there's another district doing it and it's working. I think being a small town, even though we're getting so big, has its pluses and its minuses. And as we get into the season where we have some land and buildings we may want to get rid of, I want to make sure that we're doing it in a manner in which is as clean as possible. I think we all have a little heartburn about the sale of the warehouse for a variety of reasons. It was kind of our first go at it in quite some time as well. And so we learned some lessons, and I just want to personally make sure that we have a really clean approach going into further opportunities. So I appreciate what you said. To me, it sounds like we would need a work session with Mr. Collins to kind of go through what we would want to see in an RFP. And so presuming where we land today, I think that would be the next step, is to schedule Mr. Collins to come before us and us hash out what we would want to see in an RFP. But I open it up for the board to share. Whoever, Dr. Campbell, sure. Okay.
I think we should follow the recommendation of the attorney. If we're talking about getting rid of property and having future sales and stuff, let's go ahead and set this thing up set up the right way.
Yes.
And that way we're clean all the time.
Okay. Board Member Thurr, you had something?
Go ahead, Board Member Campbell.
Okay.
First of all, I was grateful to all my many friends around the state when I put this question out to say, how many of you have attorneys that you have, realtors that you have, how many of them were willing to share, and I sent several counties, and Brevard was one of them. So I'm certain that it'll be really easy to get their RFP that they have in place too. And many districts have had realtors on contract somehow for several years. And so I guess they've just been more land rich, or they've just been in, well, certainly they've had the funds to be able to do things with their property, and we now do. So grateful for that, and I look forward to further conversation about how we can get that RFP in place that mirrors that Brevard contract, because if it's comfortable for you, it's comfortable for me.
And I very much appreciate your input, Dr. Campbell, because I looked at several individual contracts and several RFPs, and then surprisingly, the ones that you were locating and sending to me were ones that I had not yet located. So it gave me a very wide base.
Well, when board members are excited to share, then that's usually the
Right, that's the ones that are going to be the good ones.
right.
Okay, Board Member Thur?
Thank you. I, too, am comfortable with Attorney Powers' recommendation and having a formalized professional to guide us, with a caveat, when that time comes. I think that it's critically important before we engage a realtor that we have a very solid vision from the city about what their intentions are, what their aspirations are in terms of the continued development of the downtown area. Those projects will make a difference, at least in my opinion. I was hoping at the latest meeting, joint meeting of elected officials, that more than the Marion County School Board would have made presentations about, what they have cooking, and updates on projects and what type of projects, what style of projects, what age demographic, they're trying to encourage when it comes to continuing to grow downtown, because that, for me, would help guide us in what we would eventually decide to keep or sell. We know that it is an expensive venture to be busing kids all over this county. And the more students that we have close to where they live, being able to walk and bike safely, which brings me to another point, there's just so much opportunity for more collaboration, so that we really know, so that the city really knows what we're trying to do, and that we really know what the city's trying to do. And I don't know if that's a conversation for the technical working group, and then have it be presented, to the board. However that happens, I would say that it's critical that it does happen, because there's opportunities to collaborate on all kinds of things. There's been a lot of conversation about sidewalks for life-threatening reasons. Mm-hmm. And, maybe there's opportunity even in that venue of if the city's building something industrial, it means that they really don't need sidewalks around a warehouse. Maybe there could be a sidewalk bank where then those funds would go towards sidewalks where we need them for the safety of our kids. Yeah. But those conversations need a space to take place.
Well, to your point, I think if we're going to have a work session about the RFP, I want city and county to have representation at that work session to be a part of the discussion. Because that RFP and the realtor that we would choose from that RFP, there are things that are unique to city development and county development that I would want that realtor, whoever we're hiring, to be able to articulate to and work towards and be aligned with, right? I don't want to hire a realtor who maybe doesn't agree with the city's comprehensive plan, because we just had Pete Lee here to describe the city's comprehensive plan, right? And so if we're going to work well with our community partners and talk about going back to our last conversation, Booster Stadium, right? And all working together for the bettering of the community, then I want to make sure when we sell real estate that we're trying our best to at least acknowledge the needs for our government partners. So I know my request would be that in a work session with Mr. Collins, that the city and the county both had representation here to articulate what they would want to see as part of that. That's something that I would love to have here, as a way for them as a community member to add thoughts and perspective. Personally, that's my thought on that. I don't know if you guys have thoughts on it, or Board Member Thrower, because I piggybacked off you, but.
Or that might be a technical working group meeting topic. I don't know. I would just say we would still have a need to retain outside counsel or have me reviewing outside counsel if there was complex title services that needed to happen. But I do have some concerns that we need to make sure within our RFP that whomever, despite our relatively small county status as opposed to, you know, the top 5, that we have some specific, the requirements include that someone has experience within the field of dealing with public property sales and sales related to school properties, because those are items which statutorily have different requirements than just selling a local piece of real estate or a local commercial real estate or something like that. So
Well, and I
those
think-
are all things we need to.
Absolutely, and I think that's for a greater conversation about the RFP, right? And so right now, what we're looking to kind of get to is, does the board want to move forward with a work session with Mr. Collins to really have a greater conversation about it? I think is the goal of today, right? Board Member Conrad, did you?
I do. That's what I want to do.
Okay. So I think what I hear is we want to move forward with a conversation about it. Would that be an accurate statement? Board Member Thurr, how do you feel?
I continue to agree that we need the position. I think it makes all kinds of sense. I also continue to believe that a conversation and a real understanding of how we're going to work together to make sure that any property that we own within the city is going to be kept or not kept due to understanding of what each entity is intending to do.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. And however we get there, whether that's an interlocal meeting, the technical working group, whether that's them in our public work session, I don't know. But let's figure out how to make it happen, because I totally agree with you that is what, we all have to be on the same page, in the same book, having the same conversation.
Right.
Because it's our community. We're all living here. And so I'm fully in agreement with you. Dr. Campbell, do you feel comfortable moving forward with a workshop to discuss the specifics for an RFP?
Absolutely.
Okay. So I hear that we will move forward and we'll get on a future work session agenda to discuss the RFP.
I'm sorry, since I missed a little bit of the conversation. With asking partners from the city and the county to be a part of the conversation?
We're gonna figure out whether that's in the technical working group or that's in a public workshop. So I think we're gonna let the attorneys and staff kind of figure out the best ways for us to make sure that all of our community partners we're all holding hands together.
Perfect, thank you.
All right. Any other board comment on this? She did. She's. Yep. Yep. All right. Any other public comment? All right. Hearing none, we're going to round out to our final item, which should be quick board, which is the 9.1 Fessenden adjacent land use. Attorney Powers, back to you.
Yes, ma'am. So I sat down to prepare what I would say started out to be something like a letter of objection, which is standard with special use permits or things like that, where you articulate the areas that your interested party has some objection to. Now, in this case, there's a special use permit for a facility that's located about 800 yards from Denellen. It is currently already zoned for heavy industrial use. I'm sorry, Fezzen, my apologies.
You're having railroad ties flashbacks.
Exactly. So, Fezzen. So, it's the facility is located approximately 800 yards from Fezzen. Public notice was provided in mid to, I think it's April 16th, of the special use permit application. And then, of course, adjacent landowners or anyone within a 300-foot of the property boundaries was given specific or specified notice. We learned of it slightly and shortly thereafter, and I began preparing everything I could to find out more about it. I did a public records request to get the special use permit, to get all of the application materials, and also the staff summary and report materials, and forwarded those to the board for their purview or for their review. And I say it started out to be a letter of objection because I started looking at what the potentials were. And of course, I articulated some of those in my letter. I did write a letter to Mr. Odom. He's one of the staff who makes the recommendations. His actual title is, I think, transportation planner, but he's a project planner. I found Mr. Odom to be extremely well-versed and extremely helpful. I spoke to him on the phone, got as much information as I could, then began reading through all of the materials, made sure there was nothing else that I needed to review. Of course, in my letter to him, it indicated that here are the concerns. They're not objections necessarily, but they are concerns. And my concerns were for not only known and disclosed, but also unknown or potentially undisclosed risks to our students, our staff, the local environment. And as you would expect, some of those, this plant needs to be described just a little bit. Currently, it is a composting site, or it will be a slurry compost site, which will be, there's going to be wood chips, animal bedding, manure, mulch, all kinds of things like that it's already permitted for. And that's a standard use. It's already anticipated under the Land Development Code. Those are, that's just a general part of heavy, actually even sometimes medium industrial. In this case, the proposal would be to add one element. Now, currently, if you have mulch, compost, tree debris, vegetative debris, bedding, animal manure, all stuff like that, you can then also add corn stalks, agricultural waste, any vegetative debris, things like that to it. The more you add and the more finely it's chopped up, it helps to make the compost work better and dissolve more quickly. Just like if you were composting in your backyard. The special use permit, however, calls for a depackaging facility. It's located on a transfer station on the property. The transfer station would be essentially a sealed unit. It would have drains within it. All depackaging would be right there within that structure. And then the depackaging would be food waste. Essentially, food waste which contains some packaging that's still attached to it. They would depackage it within that facility. Then they would take the food waste, put it into sealed tanks, and make a slurry. That slurry would then be, I don't know if the proper term is sprayed, but it would be placed onto the mulch rows to assist with composting. And that would be the anticipated project that this company would be doing. It doesn't seem that this is because of a need to dispose of the food waste, which would be easy enough to dispose of in a number of ways. It does seem that it's a means of improving the composting process and the mulch production process. So that's a little bit about what the facility looks to do. Of course, the concerns are there potential respiratory hazards? Are there potential groundwater intrusion hazards? Are there potential health hazards, especially given that we have a school that's 800 yards away? Now, 800 yards is still it's a fair distance, but of course we can anticipate student, staff, and everyone else has to pass by it. I come from a generation where every time I drove into Ocala from the north side, I had to drive over the bridge. And any of you who drove over the bridge before probably, I don't know, the 2000s would know what an experience that was. And, you know, my grandfather would always have the same quote, and he'd say, somebody forget to brush their teeth, you know, because of the odor and the smell. And that was always,
And the site.
oh yeah, and that stayed that way for many, many years, okay?
Cow Patty High still smells like Cow Patty High.
There you go. And that's, it's a dairy, Van Wagner Dairy, and essentially it's the same kind of microbial processes going on there. However, in the difference between that and this is that this facility, I was very impressed with the staff report. Now, this is not a report by the applicant. This is a report by staff. Staff research, staff did a lot of environmental classification, and what they looked at is essentially they're looking to have this facility and their staff plan and the conditions of the permit would essentially be no odor to be permitted beyond the boundary of the properties. Essentially, that would be because the transfer station would be the only place where the slurry is actually going to be treated, and which would be the source of the majority of the odor. And that transfer station is about 300 feet back on the property. And it would also have to have scrubbers, ways of dealing with odor. And if there were any notice of odor outside the property or generated any complaints, the growth management director would actually take that up and immediately require within 10 days an action plan to increase filtration or increase removal of odor or shutdown of the facility until such time as that can be figured out. In addition, as to groundwater, they're looking at drilling at least two monitoring wells. Groundwater apparently travels in an upstream and a downstream direction, and that would be to monitor any of the phosphates, the other pollutants that can be in the groundwater, and make sure that there's not an increase or decrease in those. Specifically, I did have a discussion with Mr. Odom regarding the fact that currently the amounts, and I did include this in my letter as well, those amounts are not articulated, they're not specified. I like specificity, as does anyone when they're dealing with something as serious as an environmental concern. And he did say that those are something they're continuing to work on. There will be a supplement to the staff report, and that it will further outline those issues. In sum, my determination when I reviewed, based on the staff report, based on everything from the permit itself, is that I don't anticipate this to be something that we have alarm as a property owner of school board of Marion County, or as an advocate for our students and staff. It certainly doesn't look like it's anticipated to be, and I believe there are probably a number of both industrial or non-industrial uses that could be occurring on that property, which would be far more likely to cause concern, including simple agricultural things. So that being said, everyone can share different opinions on it, and members of the Pheasant community or nearby community may have their own opinions on it and may very well vocally choose to go speak to the county commission regarding that. And it would be perfectly acceptable and okay for each member of the board to have their own opinions based on those factors as well. My recommendation, however, though, is to take no further action to announce any unified board consensus or an action such as generating a resolution at this time. So I stand ready to answer any questions you may have.
All right, well, board, do we have remarks regarding Mr. Attorney Powers' remarks? Reverend Cummings?
So you're saying, you said, you used the term slurry, and I'm just gonna be a little bit
Hold on.
different term, other than slurry. Other than slurry, is this changing, you know what squill is, correct?
Yeah.
Is that the same thing? Because that's what it sounds like to me. And squill has a odor, and it has some residual effects that,
I couldn't speak to that because I don't know. What I do know is that that the condition of the dairy that's across the street from North Marion High School, for example, if this facility, which is 800 yards away, not 80 feet away, if the condition of this facility generated anything near that, the conditions that are outlined in their special use permit would absolutely shut it down. So it's pretty specific. I mean, they outline high odor standards, and essentially what Mr. Odom's indication is they would expect to be able to stand at the border of that property and not detect any odor. Now, I don't know if that's ultimately going to be the case. It's going to be a mild odor, or it's a background odor, an odor you go nose blind to. I have no idea, but that is the anticipation. So, I definitely think that 800 yards is still a fair distance away, but it's of interest to our students and staff, sure, and residents.
Anything else, Reverend Cummings? Okay, Board Member Thur, did you have anything? I know you had asked for us to have this discussion.
Yes, and thank you, Attorney Powers, for your good work on this, up to current. I know from speaking to some community members that one of the big concerns was, as this rotten food is being brought in, how long will it be sitting out there before it begins its process? And what will that do in terms of smell and rats and you name it? Because once it's turned into the slurry or the swill, yeah, I thought that was kind of a interesting term. At that point, it's probably not where the concern would lie, at least not from parts of the community that I have heard from. It's more about how many trucks are going to be coming in there, how long is this stuff going to sit out in, 98 degrees with 98% humidity, those kinds of things. I do agree that Mr. Odom presented a great synopsis, and your recommendation is to kind of hold for the school board right now and continue to monitor and know that that the community knows that we are aware and monitoring it. So I guess that's where I am today.
Okay. Any other board comments on this? I feel confident with the attorney's perspective and taking your lead on how to handle it, Attorney Powers personally. Did anyone else want to share remarks? Okay. Any public comment on the Pheasant adjacent land use item? All right, hearing none, I'm going to move into meeting reminders. A school board meeting is scheduled for May 26th at 5:30 p.m. and a capital outlay Surtex oversight committee meeting is scheduled for June 3rd at 4 p.m. And then there's a briefing and work session June 4th at 9 a.m. And board, for your awareness, I will not be present at that meeting, and Vice Chair Conrad will be taking the lead for that meeting. We will go into board committee reports and comments. Anything from the clerk's office?
No, Madam Chair.
All right. Anything from the attorney's office?
I think you've heard enough from me today.
We sure have. Thank you for your perspective. Dr. Brewer?
Nothing additional, thank you.
Okay. Board Member Theurer?
Just quickly, please continue, community, kids, just keep your head in the game. What was not acceptable all year is not acceptable at the end of the year. Don't sabotage yourself, for God's sake. We want to continue to see the relative calm and peace across all of our schools and begin to look forward to celebrating what we're seeing as great results beginning to roll in from a lot of hard work. Looking forward to having all that confirmed and having the same people that started with us and any newcomers finish with us strong. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Reverend Cummings?
my encouragement to our students, make good choices. Make good choices. That's it.
Dr. Campbell?
I just had two quick things. First of all, board, just wanting to draw your attention to an email we received yesterday from Lena Farmer in Brevard County, who is the administrative assistant there. It's the Central Florida Public School Board Coalition detail on how AI procedures are occurring all around the state in the Central Florida Public School Boards. And we have some information we shared, and so that's a part of that. Also in that is the comprehensive data analysis of all the Central Florida Public School Boards. It is helpful for us to see how we compare in many categories to our peers that are close to us. So please just take a quick look at that. And other than what fellow board members have already said about graduation, I did just want to highlight one other quick thing since we talked about athletic facilities today. As we continue to expand our middle school athletics, I know that the middle school track events occur on their championships, their all that they do, their big meets and everything happen on the campus where there really is only one middle school official track, which is at Bellevue Middle School. They don't have lights, so that means it has to happen over multiple days. So just having a keen eye to what that looks like. You know, I'm always going to be focused on athletic facilities, but we also understand that Bellevue High School does not have a track, so they use the middle school's track. So as we continue to have this conversation about athletic facilities and equity among our high school facilities and what that looks like, I know it will be a huge undertaking for us to put a track actually at Bellevue High School. That's a whole separate conversation. But for us to even think about what that looks like for Bellevue Middle School to be essentially the high school's track and to not have lights on it, that just puts a damper on how they're able to deliver those programs for students. So that's all I had, Chair. Thank you.
Okay. Vice Chair Conrad.
Good, thank you. I just have one quick thing. Yesterday we participated in We the People. It was just a fabulous evening. I wish all of our elementary schools could participate. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you. Let's see if I can get Oakcrest, Saddlewood, Maplewood, South Ocala, and College Park. We had great representation. Their schools, their teachers, their kids, the administrators, everyone was there to celebrate the hard work that they did. It was really enjoyable, and so I look forward to that program growing. Also, a shout out to Buddy Oswald, who wears many hats and supports many initiatives at Marion County Public Schools. So just thank you to him. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, and I will wrap it up by saying we have 4 more wake-ups. Memorial Day is Monday, and we have 4 more wake-ups. We count wake-ups in my house, so not days, but just how many more times you got to wake up and do it. So 4 more school wake-ups before the end of the year. Everybody stay focused, stay strong, and it's a busy couple of weeks for everyone, late nights, and we're all in it to win it, and I'm looking forward to hearing some updates about our data in the coming weeks. Because everything is sounding incredibly positive. So with that, I will, and there being no further business, we will adjourn this work session at 11:36. Thank you.